Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Withered Flowers Fandom podcast, where we talk about the explosive manhwa by author Gay Nim, Tears on a Withered Flower. I am Auntie Laura, and with me this evening is Digital Girl. And how are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing amazing. Happy to be here.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we were gonna try. We were try to schedule like recordings, but between work schedules and people being sick, it's just me and Digital Girl this evening. But I still think we'll have a lot of fun here. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, especially with the angst incoming. So what did you think about this last chapter? I know you have opinions.
Well, I always do. I'm probably filled with opinions and no solutions, but I digress. I felt like this chapter was definitely a bombshell chapter for a lot of people. It shell shocked even myself. Remember opening up Naver, and even though I can't read Korean, I knew exactly what was going down, and it was so
Mm-hmm.
clear. Um, Starting off with the whole situation with Teha. Um, we got to see Teha be adorable, and I had hoped in continuation from chapter 70 that he was going to go back to the house after he saw that Naheso read his text, but he kept himself calm. And then we got to see something so cute, so adorable with him, um, buying her a teddy bear and then trying to sew a heart on the teddy bear himself because the guy actually, regardless of popular opinion, regardless of what people think about his feelings about Naheso, I know that this man really does love her. And it's not just obsession. Not just obsession. There is obsession, yes. But you could tell he literally thinks of her in more as more than just a means to an end. He actually cares about her well being and wants to give back to her the things that she's given to him. And we don't even know the full extent of it. But of course, those little sweet moments were punctuated by a stab in the face because we saw He not at work yet again. Need that mentioned.
Yeah.
Go do his job, but he was out in the streets like we knew he would be. And this time he found exactly the right population of people who could give him information about his brother. So we had the high school squad. And I knew in talking to people in high school, because everybody's real gossipy, real loose lipped in the
Yep.
high school squad,
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows who Teha is. Everybody likes Teha. Everybody wants to be around Teha. So they had lots to say about Teha to the point where it made Tehi so sick.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I always had a feeling and and there and I want to say too that I think it's kind of cool that both of us had a little bit of a theory that worked out, more so yours
Yep.
than mine. So my theory was that he was gonna come across something by dumb luck, which I think he did in this case with, um Heeji or Do Heeji, right? Is that I I I I always forget her name. Um
You name
but
it, Doheji or
okay,
Doheji, I don't know.
okay. But I was not surprised that she was as salty as she was. When Brosif's, um guy goes to talk to her and she's just like, "Oh, well, I cut contact with him." And then you get that flashback of, of them um where she's like saying, "Oh, well, I liked you first and, this, that, and the other." And I don't know, it's just kind of like, really? And then she just kind of gets, like, you can tell that she's really bitter about this, right? And to a degree, I get it, but at the same time, it's just like, girl, he's just not that into you, you know? And then I don't know, like, I just kind of feel like it out of all these flavors, you got to be salty, and I don't know, it just did not sit well with me. Because I honestly thought that we had seen the last of Do Heeji. I thought she would be more of like a expositional character, which is there to just kind of explain a couple of things about the plot,
Mhm.
like that kind of thing. But I was very surprised to find out that she was the one who, kind of ratted out, on Jesus.
You
Um,
know,
and I know that was like a hot button discussion on Friday night. Um, but
oh yeah,
but I still maintain that, I mean, I get what like people were saying, specifically like Lori Uchiha, and I get it. I could see where she's coming from, but at the same time, like he didn't really do anything to um encourage her to to keep coming on to him. You know what I mean? Like I mean, he was polite, and sometimes I feel like, if you, especially in like her instance, I feel like sometimes they're going to take that, politeness or kindness for something else. They think there's going to be some kind of deeper meaning to it, but it's like, he's not that into you. He doesn't call you back, like, I don't know how much more plainer he can make it, and I don't know, like, what is your take on that?
I have several feelings about it. First things first, I am not surprised that Doheji was bitter. Regardless of whether she was encouraged or not, she spent a lot of time around Eha, admiring him and being in his orbit, spending
Mhm.
time in proximity of him, being
Mhm.
allowed to be in proximity of him, even if though the feelings that she had were not reciprocated. So
Mhm.
when you like somebody, and you spend that much time around someone, regardless of whether they encourage you or not, you kind of get your hopes up, right? And he was particularly brutal, blunt, and clear when he let her know that he has someone he likes and he does not want her to call him, do not contact him. So that brutal break, he didn't spare her feelings. He wasn't blatantly rude, but he didn't really spare her feelings. He was going to leave without saying anything at all. And she decided to confess. Now, here's the thing, right? The high school squad are not kids. They're adults. They're all
E
working adults. He's a little
exactly.
older. He's a little older than everyone. We don't know how much older, right? But they're still actually adults. They can go drinking. They have potentially jobs. Maybe they're in school. We don't really know their background, right? But an awareness piece here, and this is so very important to everyone. When you're dealing with an adult and that person, you're responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for your own choices. You're no one is responsible for how you feel other than yourself. Now, if
Exactly.
Teha had led her on to believe that something was possible, in the instance, encouraged her phone calls, encouraged her to actually like engage, I would understand. But we were in a situation by chapter, what was it? Was it chapter? It was not chapter 18, it's like chapter 22, 23. We saw the situation where when Naheso woke up in the hospital, Do Heeji was calling him over and over and over again, and he wasn't
Yep.
picking up, right? Even before, in situations where we saw Taeha with Do Heeji before, he came to the dinner at the Korean barbecue. She didn't come at Taeha's invitation. She came at Don Wook's invitation. And Taeha wasn't specific about who to invite. And Don Wook invited two girls. One of them was Do Heji, and then the other friend, I can't remember if we had her name. So she came immediately, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't all over her. He was very insular then,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And we've never seen him act in a way in the story that was forward with her while he allowed her some liberties, like she would take his headphone out of his ear. Those kind of actions are benign. It's not like he's like giving my stuff back or touching on her or anything like that that would say blatantly flirting, right?
Yeah.
So allowing someone to be around you because you're friends with them or you know them is different from encouraging that person to engage in a way that pushes beyond someone's boundary. So for that, I was like, I don't think he blatantly flirted with her. I
I
do
don't
think
think
he
so
had these.
either. I
I
think she
know
was
he
reading
had
into
these.
it.
She didn't even read into it because if she read into it, to be honest with you, um, Auntie Laura, if she had read into it, she would have already confessed to him before that moment, that last ditch effort in the alleyway where she knew that that man was not interested because he
Yeah.
wasn't answering her. If if she felt comfortable enough, because she's admired this man since high school, she felt comfortable enough to confess, it would have happened long before that alleyway scene.
Yeah,
Because
I agree. Like I kind of I mean, well, maybe it's not that she was reading into it. Maybe that's not the best way to phrase it. But I feel like she was kind of reaching. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Because it wasn't exactly like you said. I mean, we've been reading the story and we know, that he only has eyes for one woman, which is Nahe Su. But, and there's just no room for anybody else, you know. But to
there's room for
me,
friendship, but there's no room for another woman to
well,
come in and
romantically, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder though, like what kind of a person are you that feels that you have ownership of someone just because you like them first? Like that's what really got me was that statement of I liked you first. Because to me, that tells me that you don't really, and it gets back to the whole thing with like with even like with Kangman Chol,
Hmm.
like we're seeing people who, think they have a right, they have right over somebody's like autonomy or affections, what have you, just because they are in love with them. And I
Hmm.
just really don't understand. I mean, I just really don't understand that way of thinking. Like, how can you say, that you like they belong to you just because you like them? Like, what kind of premise is that? You know what I mean? Like he's not, like a deli counter. You know what I mean? Like it's
No.
not like he works at the DMV and, he's calling your number or something, like that's not how this works. And I just thought
No.
that was like really, that came across to me as very immature, selfish, and entitled almost, and
I
that really
think
bothered me actually.
I agree with you. I when I first read it, that was my knee jerk reaction, right? I that was my knee jerk reaction when I first read. I'm like, what do you mean? I liked you first. Stay with me. So, but there was never a moment where she said, "You like me too."
That's true.
In that moment, that like entitlement to actually being with someone who you're not even sure likes you the same way, and you've already walked with caution that you didn't actually go out of your way to confess to them a long time before. You went to school with this person for what 3 years. It's this person has gone to school. You still hung in their orbit, but you didn't feel comfortable enough to confess into that moment in a last ditch effort. That means that you know that that person actually doesn't like you in that way, but you wanted to make your feelings known. And you know what?
Mhm.
I'm okay with her actually wanting her feelings to be known. I also am okay with her feeling bitter because honestly, he was very blunt. He did not spare her feelings at all when he turned her down. So I'm gonna say it. I'm okay with her being bitter. Where I'm not okay, but it's not really any her responsibility is for her potentially putting someone in danger that is an innocent bystander in a situation that they had nothing to do with. There's
Yeah.
you got strangers coming around you fishing for information and you make an assumption. This is not actually factual based off of your experience, but you made a educated assumption and you revealed the identity, potentially revealed the identity of someone that you're going to put into danger simply because you felt bitter about a relationship that was neither promised nor explicitly discussed before you confess your feelings. So that is where I like in defense of Do Heeji, I'm fine with her being bitter. It's fine. You can be. We all get a little bitter when it comes to love. Like
Totally.
love, you
Totally.
know, like a dream deferred, like it's gonna happen, right? You're gonna feel sad. You're gonna have emotions. You're gonna step through it. But honestly, everybody and their mama knew that your love and your relationship was one sided. And while some people whispered that Teha might have been like hitting you on the side, he never actually demonstrated that in front of anyone. So everyone was like, I don't think it's happening. I think she just likes him, and that's it. He doesn't perform or behave in a way that encourages her. So
Yeah.
I see that we have Study Bunny in the mix.
Yeah.
Welcome,
Hi,
girl.
Study
Hi,
Bunny.
I am the study bunny guy, so I do have school. But Heeji's actions, I would have never thought that she would
Mm,
be the one to cause all the dominoes to fall. But it was only Digital Girl who was saying it for weeks. And now, with the confirmation with Gay's author's note, we are now finally in the pits of the story. So
mhm.
I have been rereading, I have been bracing myself, but even I am just like, we are in for a ride, and I am
Yeah.
so happy and scared at the same time because we have the possibility of a Minchel Tahi team up. We have the sort of confirmation of a separation of event. It's now really up to what is going to happen with the story and are we comfortable with those things happening, because I know some people were saying, oh, there's a possibility that Naheso and Minchol will get back together, but Naheso is actually using it to use it for her advantage, which I don't think will actually really work with her character at all.
I think so either.
um I really don't like the theory because it goes like it will cause a lot of unraveling. For example, she stated in chapter 26 and chapter 33 that she said that she'll never go back to Minchel. And then they already had a first confrontation after the cheating happened in chapter 18. And she was not happy even seeing him, and even the potential of seeing him again in chapter 58 and or 59, she was not happy at all. She actually had a very big look of disgust. So the more possibility is that she is just going to up and leave. If the 100 million won is still in her possession, that is her ticket to get out. But Do Heiji, man, oh my god. I feel like a lot of people are mixed on the fact that she was about to say something, but I think the investigator framed it in a way that would probably make her seem like, "Oh, do you know anything about Teha and a person that he's potentially seeing," and not in like a he's an idol type of way, because I think Duheiji would have known from the grapevine, but that's just me.
Doubt it because I don't
Mm.
know. We don't know really how much the high school squad knows about Teja's background, Teja's life,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
what he's up against. It looks
Mhm.
the actual high school that they just went to he went to a normal school. No one
Mhm.
ever was like, oh, he's a Chable heir, right? When they were talking
Yeah.
about Teja. So I don't think people had the gravitas of who he actually is. They did know
Mhm.
that he's the cool guy, and seen a level above them and departed from them, right?
Mhm.
Honestly, I'm. Just not, I'm not surprised that Do Heeji was the actual straw that broke the camel's back.
I know. Like when that happened, I was like, "Oh my gosh, we have another theory confirmed." We had Tahi's investigation finally coming to its conclusion. Now the big question is, what is Tahi now going to do with this information? He can go to the chairman, but the chairman seems to be on Teha's side. Um, I think we're going to get Director Big's face reveal because she seems like much more crueler, and I feel like it's going to cause like a fight between like the chairman and her as who is going to be the pillar for the Sons. Does that make sense?
It
Because I'm
does.
not, I think Taeju is just like one of those type of people who's like very neglectful, but isn't actually trying to actively hurt his son. But then again, I don't know. Some people were saying like there's a lot of villains in this story for a romance story.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing though, because with some of them, like, okay, I'm gonna say something that might be a hot take, but walk with me.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, so the thing is, like with Minchol, for
Yeah.
example, King Minchol, I
Mhm.
don't really feel like King Minchol is a villain per se, but I feel like he is more of an antagonist, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, I
Yes.
agree.
And I know, again, I know this is gonna be, a hot take, and I'm probably going to get some crap, but I said what I said, and I'll say
Mhm.
it again loud for the people in the back. He is not a villain. He is an antagonist, but he's not a
Yes.
villain. Is he a
Yeah.
good guy? Fuck
No.
no. He is not
Nope.
a good guy, but he is not a villain. He is not actively trying to hurt Nahesu. Now,
Mhm.
does he hurt her? Yes. He does not have the intention, and that's the thing. That is the thing. That is the distinction, in my humble opinion. I mean, I think you ladies are probably smarter than me when it comes to stuff like that, but um, but for the most part, I don't think he intentionally means her harm. Now, with that being said, though, I think that Tae is definitely a villain. I
He's
think
malicious.
yeah, he is very malicious. So um I think once he finds out like who Nahesu is, I think he is going to try to do some type of harm. So,
Mhm.
so I think there's a distinction. Like I will say that I agree with that statement to an extent that we do have a lot of antagonists, but I think we only have as of right now, I only want to say we have one villain. And I don't really count Taeju because we don't really know, what his ulterior motives are as of right
Yeah.
now.
I find it interesting. I do think that this story has a lot of antagonists. One thing I will say is there are only two characters in the story where they're introduced with only the partial showing of their faces, and there's an ominous air around them. Those two
Mhm.
people are Teju and Director Bae. Before we actually
Mhm.
saw Teju's full face, he was some ominous character in a chair with a glass of whiskey having a conversation with Lee J about his son.
Yeah.
We didn't get the full view of him. And then Director Big has been introduced, and we've heard about Director Big through narratives from the employees, but we haven't heard about her actual, like, whether she's filled with malice, does she have resentment, all of the resentment, the ill will, the bitterness, we've actually heard through the lens of Taehi. And Taehi doesn't about Director Big at all, which
Mhm.
is suspect in itself. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out if Director Big is malicious or completely detached from the goings on of the family because she did her duty and doesn't want to be bothered or involved anymore. I can't tell. We still haven't been fully introduced, but she keeps popping up. In 3 chapters, she's already popped up, and we don't actually know who this woman is. What are her
Mhm.
motives? and
Yeah.
why does she keep coming up? We don't know her at all.
Yeah.
But she still had she, despite the fact that we've only seen half of her face, there's still an ominous air around her, which I'm not able to like dismiss because there's an air of danger. And I'm just gonna take
Mhm.
those warnings in my intuition and say that she's not like Teju, she's not a person that you can disregard.
Oh,
No.
totally. Yeah, she
Yeah, I
gives
agree.
me like formidable, like, female like CEO vibes. I mean, I know she's not a CEO, but like she, just from like her posture and like from the bits, the very small bits that we've seen of her, plus, what we get of her reputation from the employees. I mean, she comes across as very formidable. And honestly,
Mhm.
like this is something that we were kind of talking about on the Discord. I forgot when it was, but we were talking about Taehi, and I have made the point that it's funny that we have not seen him, interact with his mother yet. We don't, he doesn't talk about his mother. We've only ever seen him talk about his father. And even then, it's very limited and it's, not very good, So, I mean, I really wonder, like, what is up with these parents? Like,
Mhm.
and I mean, I get it. You're in a loveless marriage and, you did your duty, you had an heir, you know, and an unintentional spare, but, it's, I don't know. I just kind of feel like even if you don't love your husband, you really need to like look after your kid, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt or something, but
In a
It's
lot of
about it.
K-dramas oh, in a lot of K-dramas, like, even the parents, after they have the kid, they kinda neglect them. So, I'm not surprised that, director Baek doesn't really, like, concern herself with, Tahi, and considering, like, how he turned out, I'm even more not surprised. Just,
yeah.
like, because he doesn't give air energy, like,
Mm-mm.
we don't see him with that formidable aura like his brother or his father is, like, giving, and even he says, like, "Oh, blood doesn't lie," but it's just like, you're also carrying his blood, so why aren't you acting more like your father? Why
Mm-hmm.
are you acting like a bachelor? I don't know. Mm.
Right?
But
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't like Tahi, but that's because he's a well-written character to be hated, so I'm like,
Yeah.
"Eh, pay
Oh,
attention."
totally. Totally.
Mm, mhm.
I feel
So
about there's about as much warmth between these family members as a blown out birthday candle right now.
yeah.
Um, Everybody has their own motives and everyone's kind of dancing around each other until all sides collide. And it's going to be a horrid collision that's going to have lasting effects. And for some, move the plot forward or even just has the ability to probably blow everything up. So I'm just waiting for everybody to collide, which is it's if I could chew on my nails, I would, but that's not a habit that I want
Yeah,
to
it's not a good habit.
reignite. It's
Ladies,
not a
you're gonna
great
have to
habit.
start having wine nights every Friday because at this rate, I feel like I'm kind of scared. Like I've never been this nervous for a chapter before, especially when the author's like, "Well, usually there's a flash and then it all goes whoosh," and I'm like, "Huh? What do you mean by
Yeah,
that?"
we got angst incoming. I mean, there's just no if ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got, like when I made the event, for the chat for this Friday, that's basically what I call the event was, oh, we got angst incoming. So I mean it's we're in for it whether we want it or not. But the thing is though is that this has been a long time in the making. So,
Mhm.
I'm actually kind of excited to see it, but I have anxiety over it. Um
Mhm.
we
Mm,
this has been building from day one, so it's
you
it's
felt
gonna
like
be
it.
it's just going to blow up in our faces, and all we're going to be able to do is just sit there and take it because Gainem writes a really good story, and you can say what you want about like King Minchol and Taehi, but but it's like you said, they are very well written characters. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to leave that there.
Very
Yep.
well written characters. But like the bombshell ending to the story, well, it's not necessarily ending, but it's like towards the end where we had Lee J narrating again. And he was just, watching Teha and being like, reflecting on his current events. And then we
Mhm.
realized that we have been witnessing the past. And I
Yes.
was like,
And I'm
I
glad
just
you
want
brought
to
that up because I
touch
wanted to
that,
talk
touch on
about
that.
that.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
start. I want to start because I realized that there's been some indicators in the story that told us that it was the past. We probably would just say, I don't know, maybe it's a translation. But I'm gonna start with chapter 37.
Yeah. Um, so I kind of was gonna say something about that. The official translations, most of the
Mhm.
monologues, they're in the past tense.
They
So
are.
she would say like Teha was always affecting my days and my nights, and I'm like, isn't that currently happening now? I was just like, oh. And then the grossest, like some of them it got more explicit as it would go through, right? So at first it's like, okay, this is
Hmm.
just a grammatical error, but now it's like, okay, now we're actually seeing it. Like, what happened in chapter 65? It was like, oh, we did not know how our kind words would end. And I'm just like, huh? Oh, this is another
Yep,
instance. Chapter 37, another instance. Now I know chapter 37 just came out on the official English webtoon. I
that
don't
is
have enough
correct.
points. I don't
I
have
got
enough
you, babe.
points. Oh,
Read
you're
it for
gonna read
you.
it?
Oh, I'm gonna read
Okay.
it for you. I got you. I got you. I got you.
Did
This
you
is what
already
I'm
read it?
here for. I've
Did
been
you
read
read
it.
it?
Done.
Digital girl to the rescue.
To the rescue, honey. Back then, I didn't quite realize how you've always managed to find the cracks in my armor. But
Oh
maybe
God.
I simply formed a habit of letting my walls down around you. That is
Oh,
the dialogue from Nahe So. So
Jesus.
so
It's the
Nahe
same.
So was reflecting on the fact that this young man always seemed to find a way to touch a sensitive part of herself. And she was like, this is probably from that moment, her inner intuition had already started going off like he's suspicious, but she ignored it because she was
Mm-hmm.
her walls were down. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this was the first indicator, y'all, that this was happening in the past. For me, the
Mm-hmm.
second one was that the monologue in chapter 46.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt my heart because first and foremost, they're like, oh, it has to be the translation. Oh, it has to be this. I was like, who's saying I'm sorry? It's
It
not
was
his so
not his
again.
soul.
But
It
you
was
It's
know
not his
what
not his
soul.
though? Like I kind of feel like this has been going on like almost since the beginning.
Yeah.
Because
hmm
I didn't really start picking up on Tears on a Withered Flower until about maybe 12 or so chapters came out, I want to say.
hmm
Like something like that. And I was getting confused on the past tenses because everything, like the way that it was written, it's always in the past tense, but there's nothing that really indicates that we're in the past. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just the way that it's written. Maybe it's the way that it's translated, or maybe, because sometimes, like it's been like a day or something, or like 2 weeks or whatever. And like you look back and, because even like when you like, watch K drama, they'll talk about like an incident that was like a day ago. And it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry for what I did back then. When we say like when in the West, I guess, Back then we're talking like years or months ago. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like and it could be maybe just a nuance of the language. I have to say that I'm not that familiar with Korean, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but I feel like, at first I thought it was maybe just that's how it was translated. But
Mhm.
when we got that one indication of like Lee J, talking about how he wish he would have said something to Teha, and then we see him, like with the red eyes, and he's just kind of laying there, and there's like a bottle on the floor, and this, that, and the other. I was like, oh, so we are talking about the past, and
We
a lot of
are.
things clicked for me actually. you know so I'm wondering now if some of the things that we saw, like for example the one chapter where Jesus is talking about how he'll get tired of her, and she walks into like a room or a club or something. And I know that we had talked about this because of the coat she was wearing, because it looked
Mm-hmm.
like one of the coats she was currently wearing. But we see her in that same coat. She's walking in, he's got these women around him, and he's just looking at her with this just like dead eyes. So I'm wondering if we are seeing a glimpse of the future, and I'm wondering how far into the future that is.
Okay, can I give
Mm-hmm.
my theory on that? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that Gainim is only showing us the part of the story where we kind of already know that things are kind of going like to shit, because we as an audience kind of already know that Teha's lying and everything is going to have an effect on the relationship, but
Mm-hmm.
is probably really wanting to hide the what's going to happen after, because yes, we do have hints of a separation event. I'm sorry, Chrissy's sending me the Phantoms for chapter 38.
Ignore it. Ignore it. Recording. Ignore
Sorry.
it.
Sorry, literally I've been working with kids. But we've also gotten hints though that they're going to end up together. I don't know if you saw the screenshot I sent to all the theorists yesterday, or is it today? Um
Mm-hmm.
about the fact that there's now two teddy bears, right? And in
Yes.
Mhm.
Korea, if you put a heart on the teddy bear, they were saying like, oh, there's a soul that it would always protect a soul, and it gains a soul because it then protects you, right, from nightmares and anything. Now, Teha is
Mm-hmm.
going to give Naheso a teddy bear, and Naheso has already given a teddy bear. Now they both have two pairing teddy bears that will protect them during the separation event. Now the thing is that both of them, their comfort has helped them heal in some way. Teha had insomnia; he had issues sleeping, so he had sleep issues, and then Naheso has issues dealing with cold spaces. So obviously, the teddy bears provided that warmth and that comfort through their smells and stuff. Because for some reason now Naheso's into his smell, and I think that that also indicates that they're probably going to have kids. But we've also got covers that show them being together, them being domestic. And then obviously most poignantly, chapter 12's cover, where she's in a white dress, Teja's carrying him downstairs. And I still think that's going to be one of the ending panels that we're going to see in the story. And obviously chapter 45's cover, she's definitely going to be living in luxury, so I definitely see that they're going to end up together. There's no reason why they shouldn't. But I know personally for me that the journey was going to be rough with everything that was stacked against them, because there's a lot of cards.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
a 10-year age gap, with a lot of like with a dangerous family, and then you have the crazy ex-husband, and then you have the financial chasm. So it was never going to be easy. I think if you were thinking it was going to be easy, you would be deluding yourself that it is going to be easy and oh my gosh, everything's going to be fine. But the thing is that both of these individuals, if they can solve through their problems and not allowed to repeat the past, but also to let go of the past, and not try to come back to it, that's just my opinion, they can be able to move on to the future.
I agree. I do think that
Hmm.
I think we flip back and forth where perhaps Naheso is actually narrating the story. Because when we hear from Teha, Teha doesn't slip into the past at all. He doesn't
Yeah,
slip
you're
into the
right.
past.
You're right. Like thinking about it, yeah, you're very yeah. Which I have found kind of curious, you know. Um, but that's why I'm saying, like, you know, that's what's making me wonder is like how far, you know, in the future, you know, are they going? You know, meaning like how far are they? I'm sorry, I'm trying to phrase what I mean. I think what I'm trying to say is how far in the future is it? Is it like after they've been married? Are they just looking back on their memories? Or is this more like, you know, they're thinking about this while they are separated? Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
I
know I'm
Yeah.
probably not
no worries.
explaining very well, but you
I
know,
know what you're saying. Where in time are we when they're doing the reflection in the
exactly,
past? I
exactly.
actually think it's during the probably the separation arc because they don't talk
Yeah.
about the future at all. I think this
Mhm.
is the present point that we'll probably be taken to is where the story is. Like they're either separated or the way that they talk about it, it was the tone is regret, right?
Oh,
So
very
Mhm.
much
regret
so.
Naheso um regrets her careless words. Naheso is apologizing to the person who was sincere to the end of their love. Naheso is thinking about how is it that I didn't know how you got underneath of my skin. Um, Maybe she's even regretting and ruining, like contemplating her relationship with him while they're apart. And that might be the moment where that brings them back together.
Yeah.
That's yet to be seen.
Mhm.
But to speak to something else that you said, Auntie Laura, about speculation as far as what if Teha and Naheso are going to experience a separation arc, what that would look like for Naheso. To be honest with you, Naheso had already talked about her love with Minchal being dead.
Yeah.
Dead. The reflection that she's had on their past was always this golden past, but in the present, she's always been finite about the fact that their love is done. Even before the breakup happened, even before she like finally found out and had to confront Minchal about the cheating, he knew the relationship was already over. That had nothing to do with Teha at all. Actually, it was everything to do with the interpersonal communication that she had between herself and Minchal, and she had already acknowledged that their relationship was done and the love was dead. So I don't think that
Mhm.
she's going to go back. If nothing else from the story, we could see that Naheso is actually self-sufficient enough to support herself
Yeah, like
without.
I have never
Yeah.
doubted that she would ever go back to Minchal,
Me
you know,
neither.
because I agree with you. Like I feel like that is a done deal. That ship has sailed, and sunk, and is now, you know, hanging out with the Titanic. It is never
Yeah.
coming back. You know,
Mhm.
that is a done deal. I mean, I know that there are people that ship that, but you know, I personally don't, and I don't think that, you know, I still maintain, you know, that I really don't think Minchal deserves to have her back, and you know, I don't want. I am not interested in a Minchal redemption arc. So, you
Even
know,
like a slither of a chance. I think that's the thing that like is getting to me when some people are like theorizing it and standing down that like they can see that happening. I'm just like, first and foremost, we already seen what happened when Mitchell's given a second chance with Ari, what he pulled with Ari in chapter 19 and 20 and 21.
mhm.
he was like, "Oh, it was too easy. It was so easy to
Exactly.
fool her." So he's not going to like he said that, "Oh, let's just get back to our miserable old lives." He doesn't want to improve the situation that they're in because
No.
he always benefited from the situation. But the thing that I'm really like inquiring though, and this is my whole statement about the fact that like yes, I noticed that the monologues that were like reflections of the past, even though now we know we're in the past. I think the thing that Gay wants us to like do, like she's probably trying to do, is that we get to the present and they work out through the problems, because I feel like Nahiso is going to have that actual authentic alone time of growth where she's going to actually self-explore, where she's going to do the stuff. But at the same time, we're going to learn about Teja's past and why he is the way he is. We're going to see these two individuals grow separately, but still be longing for each other in a way. And
Hmm.
then when we finally are in the present tense, they're going to move on forward to the future together when they come back together. Because I don't think Gabe will end this story on a separation arc. That'll be very depressing,
Yeah.
especially if there's so many hints that they're going to be happy, that there's a possibility that they're going to have kids. And we still need to get information about the miscarriage. We still need to get information about what happened with the debt. I feel like those are things that are going to be poignant. I would be shocked, not really, to find out the Biome family has connections, or if Tahi is going to lie about that. I wouldn't not be surprised either, because I feel like there's just so many other things to take care of. But Nahiso deserves a happy ending, and I'm gonna be, and so does Teha as well. It seems like he's also been through a lot of shit in his life. I feel like he also deserves a happy ending, and for a lot of people, they're just like, "Oh yeah, Nahiso's the only one who deserves a happy ending." But Teha has been
Yeah.
abused. Teha's been abused. Like I'm not like a big Teha stan, because I don't usually like men in manhwas, anyways. But I kind of recognize that he's been a character who's been through his own rile of hurt. I can't imagine losing a parent at such a young age. I can't imagine not having a proper concept of love. I can't imagine like being with a neglectful parent and then having a sibling who wants you just basically dead. And then yeah, he's in luxury. People are like, "Oh, but he has money. He's going to be okay." But
Just because you
people,
have money doesn't mean
I
that
mean,
your life is good.
you're happy
I
or you're
mean, I mean, there's a
mm,
lot of people that are a lot better off financially that are still like,
Miserable.
have exactly all kinds of addiction issues, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's actually unfortunately it can be a very common thing amongst people that are, with money. Like money may solve some problems, but it doesn't solve everything.
No,
mhm,
Um,
it does not. I think this
yeah.
story actually speaks really well to that because we have two sides of the spectrum. We have the ultra rich and ultra privileged, and then we have people who were basically born in the slums, right? So, like,
mhm,
just comparing two people who are in the slums who took two different directions. Start with Naheso and Minchal.
mhm,
Naheso grew up in a poor, downtrodden situation. We're not sure where her mother is, but we know that her mother's gone, either passed or perhaps even ran away, and she was left with an abusive father, hand me downs. And we're not quite even sure that man worked because he was drunk during the daytime. So we know Naheso did not grow up in the best circumstances. She wasn't able to get a proper education because she couldn't really actually, her home was so broken that she wasn't even safe there enough to be able to study. We
Yeah.
know that, right? Then we have
mhm,
Minchol, who also had a terrible circumstance, but he potentially was a ward of the state, so he was able to at least pay rent. His parents had passed, his grandparents had passed. He became the surrogate, star child of the neighborhood, but he still had the means to be able to support himself, right? So there are two
mhm,
different sides of the story. And he also had good enough grades. They weren't great, but he had the middle of the ground grades enough that he could have gone to college. There was a proper pathway for him to be able to obtain a normal life
yeah,
if he so chose.
Mhm. Yep.
And those two diverged, but came together because Minchall made a choice that was his own volition. Basically an error-filled poor choice, of course, but it was a choice nonetheless that wasn't forced upon him by anyone, wasn't asked for. It was basically forced error. He made a choice to take the money that he had saved and use it to, in his mind, save Naheso from her situation, which wasn't what she wanted, but she went along with it because, of course, this person has made a sacrifice for themselves. And for
Yep.
her, she's going to make it work because she loves that person. So they came together, right? So
Mhm.
ideally, you got this one person who has potential, one person who doesn't necessarily have potential, but now you have two people together. Ideally, you would think that they would take that star power that they have and move forward into at least a life of stability if possible. But that didn't happen, right? Because it could have. It could have, but it
Yeah,
didn't.
it really could have,
It
if
could have, but the
Mincho would have
choices were
like,
made.
yeah, if he would have just got off of his ass. I get it, like everybody in the world has failed at something at some point in their life. You know,
Many times. Many, many
exactly.
times.
Exactly. Everybody fails. It happens. However, if you just not try, which I feel like that's what happened with him, like I remember watching a movie. It was like Take Me Home Tonight, which was, I want to say that was released about 10 years ago. And basically, like, the premise of the movie is it takes place in the 80s, one of my favorite decades. And like, there's this kid or this dude who's in college, right? Or actually, he dropped out. He was like at MIT or some prestigious place like that. So at one point, like, it shows him and his father talking, and he's just working at the mall, just doing whatever, not really doing anything much with his life. And then like, him and his father are talking, and he's like, "Oh, I know you're disappointed in me, blah blah blah." And then basically the father says, "Son, I can't be mad at you because you're a never was. Like, you never even tried. You're a never was. At least if you would have tried and failed, that would have been something, but you never tried. And that's kind of the situation that I see here with Minchol. Like, he got knocked down, which is unfortunate, and it happens. But he never got back up. And that's the problem that I think he has. He does not know how to get up, like, which is surprising, especially coming from somebody, who, did have some struggles. And I'm not saying that, he had it worse than Nahe Su, but he didn't have to deal with an abusive parent. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that either situation is good, but I feel like he had it slightly better, because he didn't have somebody to abuse him, but he did have a lack of adult guidance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not going to apples to orange it. I don't want to do the struggle Olympics because both of them were in the struggle together.
Oh,
But I,
totally.
Yep.
like, I'm not, and I'm not like dinging you, but I want to go back to choices because choices were still being
Me.
made, and this is where the problem lies with how people treat Naheso versus Mincho. Both of them were in the same saddle together. Naheso chose the practical route. I'm going to get jobs. I'm going to work these jobs. I'm going to get multiple jobs so I can make sure we put food on the table. I
Mhm.
do not believe that Minchal, after he gave up his chance and during his senior year to apply to college, I do not believe that he stopped. What I do believe is he decided to take a more impractical route to get money fast, and that too failed and landed them in the situation that they ended up being in with the debt. He chose to be
Oh, girl.
impatient and try to get money fast,
Yeah.
and it was not the best route. Easy money is not the right kind of money.
No.
Naheso chose the practical route, which he resented her for. And we saw that in the chapter where he reflected back on even when they got married, he resented her practicality because he wanted to go eat meat. And she says, we need to, we just got the apartment. The money got spent. We need to, buckle down and tighten our belts a little bit until we can save more money. He's like, I don't care about that. You're so unromantic. I want to go
My
eat meat. And then we
God,
saw the
this sounds
shopping
so
scene
familiar.
where she saw the Gucci bag and he was like, oh, that bag costs, millions of won. And Naheso was like, who needs a bag like that? And he resented her for not wanting that fast money, this dream, like inflated. She's not that girl. She's never been that girl. So they were on two different paths. And he resented that she wasn't pushing him towards the path because he's impatient that he wanted to go to get money fast. But he did it anyway because he's impatient. And that led them down the path to where they are, where their whole relationship was in the dumps because he continued to make impatient decisions rather than practical ones. Dead serious. And when I talk about choices again, we have another side of the spectrum, the very rich. We have Tehi and we have Teha. Choices were
Yeah.
made. Teju brought Teha into the home when he was very young. Tehi decided that he was going to focus on beating Teha's ass. I have reason to believe that he didn't excel. Once he found competition, maybe for the first time in his very life, he resented it very much. I've read
Yeah.
many a manhwa where in the Chable family, you have the overachieving older brother and the underwhelming younger brother, right? And
Yeah.
even if they're half brothers, it's always the older brother that might be the antagonist, but he was also the A student. He was a model guy. And then we have Tehi, who was a for the streets, money guzzling,
Yeah.
spoiled, poor reputation having, womanizing, fraternizing, irresponsible person. Choices are being made. Nobody's forcing him to decide to have sex in the clubs. No one's forcing him to bring a bunch of women into their family hotel. No one's forcing him not to know anything about the business that his father runs. No one was forcing him not to go to work. He could have
Mhm.
went to work. The reason that Tehi even has the chance he has now is because Tehi chose to be underwhelming. And
Mhm.
because choices get made. He could have been on the track and already on the board if he decided to not let Teha intimidate him, which he did. And now he's now neck and neck, nose and nose with the brother that he hates because he's worried about feeling entitled. I'm supposed to have this. I should
Yeah,
have
he
it if
gets on
I'm
my
going to get.
nerves with that.
He doesn't want to work, but the
No,
whole
he
job
really
he's going
doesn't.
to do for a conglomerate is work. That is all that his father actually does is hold together an empire. And you don't even want to work, but you think you're entitled to run a multi-million-dollar empire. I am
Yeah.
confused. Choices are
Probably
being made and it's wrong
multi-billion,
choices.
actually.
Hmm?
Multi-billion, because they hold a vibranium spoon. In Korea, they say, oh, you have a gold spoon, silver spoon, wooden spoon, but a vibranium spoon, that means you're richer than rich. You're richer than a chaebol.
Exactly.
Chaebol is an understatement. I man, I sometimes Tahi's like behavior is not shocking to me, but then it still shocks. But
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they have a team up, but the team up would be so volatile between them. It would be because Tahi's an elitist. He's an elitist and he's a classist. And he just wants the Chable position. He wants the chairman position because he just wants the power. He doesn't want any of the work that comes with it. He will
Nope.
run
Yeah.
the company down to the ground in like
Oh,
2 days
yes.
flat.
Very totally. I agree with that statement 100%. I cannot see
Hmm.
that man. He can't even run a paper bag. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
All the cleverness he
he's
has, he just wasted it on terrible
yeah,
soup and poor
yeah.
plans.
And, getting up at, the crack of 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And no, I am not gonna let that go.
And you should let it go because that speaks to his work ethic. Everybody's up and working. It is the end of the day. Teja has already been in meetings. He's been speaking to people. He's like actually shown face. And then we
Yep.
have the other young master who's hung over on the couch yelling at his assistant slash guard because he
Like,
dared to wake him up
oh,
at
my
4 p.m.
stomach hurts. Well, yeah,
Like,
you're
come on.
probably got the Budweiser flu, guy, so I don't know what to tell you.
And that
I
goes
mean,
back to what I'm saying
ugh.
about the theme of choice. It's choices. Poor choices are being made. And
Mhm.
Teja is not safe either because I know Teja had a bad life, right?
Yeah.
Teja had a bad life. He along the way, the shitty life he had, he met Nahe So, and it's something in him sparked that he, of all the people that he encountered throughout his life, the one person that he wanted to protect was her, right? So he tries to protect
Mhm.
her. He was okay, just being the Batman in the dark, right, to help, and he tried his best to help her situation by even getting Minchal a job, which Minchal, of course, got that job and made choices with that too. I'll save that for another day. But he got
Mhm.
Minchal the job because, parachute hire. But that wasn't enough because he saw that obviously that still wasn't working out. And then he chose to put himself in front of Naheso over and over again until she saw him. But then Teja's not all the way doing the right thing now that he's in front of Naheso. He's being cryptic, he's being secretive, he's not being transparent about really who he is and what he has going on. And
Yeah.
when
I agree.
Naheso finally asked him about
What do you do
himself,
for? Yeah.
Oh, you'll
he
cry if I tell you. I'm like, come
but
on,
he
That
didn't
was a
say
bro.
that.
dream. That was
That's a
meditate,
dream.
huh? That
I
was a
mean,
dream.
like,
That's a
okay, I just feel like, all right, I know I say that he's emo, and he really is. You
Mhm.
know, to me, that just felt like unnecessarily melodramatic. You
but that's
know,
her intuition. That's her actual
That's your
that
dream version of
that
Teha.
that's her dream version of Teja. That is actually Naheso's prophetic dream once again because we got
oh,
it in
that's
chapter
right.
one. We
That's
got that.
right.
That is not Teja himself. That is her inner
No,
intuition
you're
telling her
right.
there's something
You're
right.
right. I'm sorry. For some reason, I was thinking that, like, I don't know. It's been a long day. Don't mind me.
No worries. I'm here because I overread the story. I had so much to say, and I'm gonna say that shit because I know
Me,
it. I know.
I was like,
Tia,
wait a minute. No,
Naheso is a prophet. She is a prophet, and what she said is going to come true. It was in her
how can you
dream.
forget? She pinned him in the dream. I was just like, girl, you need to do that in real life. Pin him in
She
real life.
will. I
Oh,
think she
she has
I
to.
will.
think she
She
will. I mean,
has
I
to.
think she'll the thing here's how I kind of see it with like Heisu. I feel like she's gonna get tired of like, him being cryptic all the time. Because I mean,
Hmm.
you can only take that shit for so long before it's like, just give me a fucking straight answer. You are not Batman, sir. You are not
Yup.
Batman. You are not Batman. You are not Batman. You do not need
Vigilante
to be.
justice.
I do not care. He is not Batman. You might be a Bruce Wayne, kind of, but you are not Batman, sir. There's no reason for you to, like, go around and being Mr. Enigma. You already have your girl. She's already with you, so you don't need to play up tall, dark, and mysterious. Okay. Now, do I think that we actually, let me go back for a second. So
Yeah.
we all know that a lot of these issues could be solved if they did what? Sit down and talk. But they don't know how to do that.
Mm.
And we know
They don't
that.
know how to do that, but that's a domino effect. Here's my thing. I can understand if they had a conversation, but then again, like it would be everything has to come onto the table. And then when I mean everything, I mean everything. Like, oh yeah, my brother, oh my god, I can't even imagine how that conversation would even go. Like I've thought about it in my head and I'm like, that would just be a mess. Like a
It
disgusting
would.
mess.
But I
I
feel like
mean,
he owes it to her, especially he owes it to her safety.
I
That, and I
I
think
believe
that's
so
where I'm going
too.
with that.
But I said
Mm-hmm.
that this conversation would be forced. I feel like when it comes to when we hit the mile, and when the toes are when what is it, the stones are down and the chips are up, and you have the last card standing. Literally, he's gonna have to spill the freaking beans, but it looks like we're gonna have the whore do it for us, and I'm just like,
Yep.
well, shit. I mean, this is what happens when you try to be secretive. Do I understand why he had to be kind of secretive? A little bit, yes,
Yeah,
because if
I get it to a degree.
she's really good at connecting dots. And if she's probably heard the word biome, and even though the biome family is a secretive family, she would have been like looking into the family. Now, some people said, well, she should have just done that already when she met him. I don't think anybody being a Chable would have been the first thing to come into your mind.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
Like if I were to say, oh yeah, I know someone who's from the Dangote family, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you because that's rich, 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 rich type of family. And even then, I wouldn't even try to look into you. Like I met someone who's like in the upper echelons of like Nigerian society, and I literally looked him up, and I'm like, I still don't believe a single word you're saying. And it's like, okay, so I could understand why she's just like, but we're going to find out in a few chapters anyways. So like we're now in the part where like we're literally seeing all of this play out because Tahi has two choices. Actually has three choices. He can either keep it a secret and go directly to Naheso and confront her. I don't know what he would do, probably kidnap her. I feel like we're going to have a kidnapping. Two, he can go to Director Bake, tell her, and then make her do the decision and the planning. Or three, confront the chairman and threaten or blackmail the chairman, like, oh, Teha has somebody. What do you guys think?
I think he might try to rat to Teju to say, "Hey, I heard that Teha actually, you bothered me about Melissa. I think Teha also has someone
Oh, we
that
know
he's
he
keeping
got
on.
Melissa pregnant. Okay,
We know he's like, you're worried about me. You should be worried about your son. But we already know that Teju knows that
yes.
Teha's messing around. I'm curious because he said, I can't wait to see who Teha thinks is on his level, right? So
Mhm.
I think that he's going to go snoop around in his mask to find out who she is, or without the mask to find out who she is. I'm not sure yet. I think he's going to go
God,
to
I'm
the
scared.
barbecue joint.
I'm so
Um,
scared
Yeah.
about that.
the
I
The
kind of
thing
scene.
agree. Like I
It's
think I think what he'll do is he'll probably like, case the joint. Um, that's kind of the feeling that I get. Like I feel like what he'll do is he'll go there, just to see her. And then I think, that's when he'll probably try to use that against Teha. Like I
yeah.
don't think he's gonna go there and like harass her, but I don't think he's gonna leave her alone, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think he's gonna
No.
just go up to her and be like, "Oh, you're the bitch my brother's going out with," and she'll be like, "What? Who the fuck are you?" I think what he's gonna try to do is he's going to try to pull some strings, like a puppet master, and I think it's gonna fail spectacularly. Um, and I think the reason why it's going to blow up in his face is because, one, all the energy that it's taking him to do all of this reconnaissance on his brother,
Mhm.
all he had to do was take that energy and apply it to his fucking job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amen.
Boom. you know, like
But he
all the
chose
initiative.
not to. Yep.
Yeah. All the initiative you are showing, to show up your brother, you could have done that at work. And it would have been so much easier on you. And you wouldn't have had to like go out of your way to like talk to people and listen how great your brother is. You could have bypassed all of that if your fuck ass would have just sat down and did your damn
Yeah.
job. I'm just saying.
No.
The same thing with him as a student. The same thing with him. He had every chance when he was in the United States. He could have excelled at something instead of us having to hear from Taeju that his slutty antics are, cross continental. Like, sir, everybody knows the color of your manties at this point. You need to make better decisions about where you slam your peen because everybody knows they're just discreet enough to keep it quiet. But you are a hoe for show, and everybody knows. Okay, everyone. The club
A
people
big
probably know
time
too.
hoe.
Big time hoe.
Do you guys think do you guys think any of the background characters, now that we kind of also see how important of a role like the side characters play, because people were very confused and like, oh, why couldn't it have been a main character who was able to do the reveal? Why did it have to be a side character that we only saw 5 slides ago? But we, like, as a Discord, know like every single character pretty much counts and it's fair game to be able to have an impact on the story. Do you think the people like the stalker, do you think the people like the stalker from chapter 61 to chapter 62, do you think like Anol and the barbecue man? Because if Tahi decides to come to the workplace, Anol thinks of Teha kind of as a gigolo.
Gigolo girl.
With a G.
Gigolo. It's soft
Y'all
G.
can laugh at
Jiggle.
me. I just think of purple shirt and I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to think about it anymore. Like, she already gave the idea of Teha is a gigolo. So this Teha lookalike is going to be coming into work looking a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, very gigolo like, because Tahi does look like a gigolo and is going to be super pissed. I wouldn't even be surprised if Tahi thought that Anol was the person that Teha was dating for some reason. Like, he doesn't, I don't know. I don't know. Mm.
Honestly think that she might, if he does snoop around the barbecue joint, right? And he snoops around without, his mask, which I don't think he's going to do because he's trying to stay out undercover for a bit. If he does unveil himself and she notices him, she's going to know that he looks like Teha. She's going to be like, Teha? That's
Mhm.
not Teha. Who the hell is that? She might even run up to
Yeah.
him and be like, "Oh no, you're not Jiha." I honestly would love to see her like do that or mistake, like see Taehi and mistake him, and then think that perhaps Taeha's out in these streets, and she goes to confront him and realizes it's not him.
Yes.
Uh, I would love to
Yes.
see that.
I think that's gonna
By
happen
the
too.
way, the thing is if he's lurking around through the glass, all the coworker knows what Teha looks like. And if there's someone similar, like, is that Teha? Girl, do you know that guy? And she's gonna like, that guy? Is it Teha? Because she's like vibrating like a tuning fork anytime she sees that man because she's
Yeah.
strung out on Teha.
Yeah,
She's
she
like,
really is.
They're bad
"Girl,
for each other. Oh my god.
they are like we have not seen, even in the flashbacks, we have not
Oh,
seen Nae
yes.
so strung out on Min Chol. Like she is like tweaking and nesting. She's giving it to her a megaverse.
Oh
I
my
want
god.
it.
No. See, when that boy mentioned nesting, I was just like, girl, just shush. Because I knew what that meant. I was like, no.
Look, I know everybody's like, no way, she can't be pregnant. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder because the Gainem has given us too many scenes where there were condoms about, but condoms not being used. And Gainem has been very explicit about showing condoms in other scenes with other characters, with the exception of Naheso and Teha. And
Yeah.
you know what? One of these days, the chickens is gonna come to roost in her universe, and
Yeah, it's
You
like I
guys
always
know.
say, life finds a way. Life
life is
finds a
gonna find.
way.
Oh
She's
If
god.
sleeping
if
good.
Jurassic Park taught me anything, it was that life finds a way.
Oh my god. I was just
Sleeping
like,
good,
there's
eating good. happy. She actually treats herself to things. She makes herself breakfast. She
Mm-hmm.
got
She
extra
eats.
pork ribs in the fridge. She got the supersize pack. Mama actually is taking care of herself good. So I
Oh,
don't
She
want to
is.
hear that she's frail or hungry. She's taking care of herself and she's getting dicked down a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and say that life will find a way, whether people want this to happen or not. It's come on, we have Ari wishing on a star and like trying to roll a dice.
Yeah.
There are 2 sessions of unprotected, action. And Nahis knows not thinking of it at all, which is weird because I'm like, girl, you're not thinking of it at all. Meanwhile, Tejas is like, marriage.
You know,
If it
it's
will be, it will
interesting that
be.
you bring that up when because when Min Chol tried to raw dog it, she was like, "Nah, you better wrap that shit up." Right? And he got
Hmm.
mad at her. But then when Teha goes in raw, she doesn't even think about it.
Not a deep. She actually
So,
says, leave it in if we go by
exactly. Oh,
some.
oh, but don't forget she was full that one time.
And that's a strange way to put it.
oh my god. No,
So,
it's like the more people are like, man, I hope she's not pregnant. And the more I'm just looking at the scenes and I'm just like, you guys, we just have to wrap it up. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Just wrap it
and
up.
we
Wrap it,
know that our
wrap it
Feeling
up.
that what's going
Wrap it
on
up.
with her is
Wrap it
she's
up.
thinking that she will never be pregnant,
Wrap it up.
and I have a feeling that's probably why. And let me tell you, I worked at an OBGYN. I used to hear this all the time. Oh, they told me I would never get pregnant. So
Yeah.
here I am.
Mhm.
Sometimes it was good and sometimes it was not. And those are rough conversations. But anyways, but yeah, I have seen a lot of women like her. That never thought that they were going to get pregnant and then surprise. So it can happen. It can happen.
Mhm. It
You
can
better
happen
wrap
if
it
we
up. Wrap it
better
up.
ribbity rap
Well, it's
and
too
then you
late now. It's
Yeah.
it's it's too late now. I'm gonna
it's
say it's
always
too late.
it's always fade in sight when they see each other in the best of ways. But you know what
Mhm.
I think? You know what I think is going to happen? I think maybe Teja's going to go to the apartment and no one's going to be there and he's going to freak because she hasn't told him that she plans to move. She hasn't told him that she wants to move in together. She hasn't told him anything about her plans. And she knows that
Yeah.
she has to move
Mhm.
because it's not safe for either herself or because of in Charles. She knows it's not safe. And she made that phone call to I guess a realtor or about seeing a property. So I'm wondering when we're going to see her actually go somewhere and see the property.
Mhm.
Because that call got made already and she was making plans to either get another job to
Oh
bring in
my
more income so
god.
she could save.
I just thought of something. I just
All
thought of
right.
something.
What did you
Um,
think?
okay, so here's a wild theory. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know
Mhm.
like how close, I don't even know if this is feasible. But and I'm sorry, I know this is random, but what if somehow Taehi finds out that she is trying to move? And what if
Mm.
he poses as a realtor and
He
kidnaps
needs
her
to
that
stop
way?
cosplaying.
Oh my
Home- Homeboy needs to
god.
stop cosplaying. Like
I
that.
mean,
That
I don't
will.
know how feasible that is, but just what if?
No, he was doing K-pop, so I mean, like anything, him dressing up at this point is completely down for the count. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would not be surprised
Yeah.
anymore. Like, yeah, like he, but I would not be surprised if, like, I still think Hazel will try to be independent and move by herself. And that's
Mhm.
going to be like the way the separation arc's going to go. Because if she moves, then Mitchell doesn't know where she is, and especially Teha doesn't know where she is. But I feel like this would be much more perfect instead of like suspecting that she's going to go back to the one person she literally stated, I will never go back to, like, to declaring on the mountaintops. If she's like, you know what, I'm moving out, I'm going to make my own way, I'm going to quit my jobs, I'm going to find new ones. Well, she's done it before and she could definitely do it again.
Oh,
So,
she has. Because she's
mhm.
actually more integral and like the most stable person in the story. Low self-esteem and damage and all. She's probably the most stable person in the story than anybody else is. Everybody's about as stable as a box of matches near open fucking flame. Um,
I know
but
that's
another
right.
thing that sent up a flare for me, like a warning flare, is that Teja was, at home sewing his little bear, and Lee J's there, like, look at you sew this bear. This is a wild scene. And Teja tells him, I'm not gonna go see Heiso. She said, don't come for a while. Girl, why did she say that? Don't come around for a while. What is going on? We're not
Well,
in the same timeline.
Gay said the floodgates have been open, and we have one more day before chapter 72. So
Yeah.
all we have to do is grab a bottle of wine, pray the rosary, and just hope to God it's a normal paced chapter and delude ourselves that that's the case. Like
Mm.
I'm already missing the times where we're like, oh my God, we're so bored, and I'm just like, actually, we can't actually handle plot. We say we can handle it, but we actually can't handle it. We're liars.
We're
We're all
we're
liars.
I
We're
can only imagine what the chat is gonna be like. Like, like I feel like our Discord is probably gonna implode. And the chapter discussion is gonna be freaking wild.
Mm,
If when stuff goes down. I mean, like if we just look at like last week, when there was, you know, people had feelings about all kinds of stuff. So,
Mm.
I mean, it's gonna be lively. I will say that.
which is
Ugh.
which is good,
Maybe
but
with the
I don't know.
alcohol, maybe everybody needs to take a Xanax or some chamomile tea if you're not into drugs and calm down because we aren't even we by chapter 72, we're only at the bottom of the damn roller coaster. There's a whole ride to be had, and
Yep.
y'all need to lock in a little bit harder. Everyone's
Mhm.
like y'all are staring at the wrong things, and I need everybody to get right, get tight, and hold on to your hats because I feel like we're just going to have some ups and downs that are going to send us for a a spin or downward spiral. But I also think, and I just don't get why no one's paying attention to them authors' notes. Think people are like plotting on the downfall of Teha and the uprise of Minchal, but Minchal's still in the spiral. He hasn't hit his rock bottom yet. He's doing a
And
very good job of digging his own hole. And
And Gay's loving it. I don't know. I feel like we post the author's note and people just ignore it. And it's like
yeah,
she's posted before that she's literally laughing at him at his own expense. And I'm like, she doesn't like Minchel at all. Like
no,
there's a 80% chance that boy's gonna die by the end of this manhwa. Like there was a hint, like, will I even get to see myself at 94 years old? My dude.
yeah. I think it's even going to be crueler. I think he's going to be alive because you have to be alive to watch the person that you always thought was going to always be looking up through the hole that you dug for your
Yeah.
life. Um,
Yeah.
to see them standing looking down at you is another
Yeah.
kind of torture that
Hmm.
nobody would be able to take. He really, like, he had all the potential to have a good life.
Hmm.
Okay. And he
Yep.
consistently makes choices that take him further and further from the life he could have had and farther and farther away from it into his own downward despair. He actually, nobody's doing anything to Kong Min Chao to make
Mhm.
him fly further into darkness. It is all Kong Min Chao's choice.
It's all him. It's all
Yeah, it
It's
him.
his
really is.
choice.
I mean, he is the instrument of his own demise,
Right.
and it's really surprising to me how a lot of people, kind of don't see that sometimes. And I
That's so
mean,
sad.
Yeah, and I
Katie's like
mean,
that too.
I mean,
Katie
don't
is
get me
exact.
wrong, like, he did get a bad deal, I'm not and I'm not
He
arguing that,
did.
but,
He
you
did
know,
not.
he did and he didn't. And I can understand to a degree, life slapping you in the face, but it's like, "Bro, get up, do something, don't just sit there."
But I know he
Like
did something. I know he did a lot, but he did everything but make the right choice.
Yeah.
He tried to ignore every last step that it takes to build a proper life with the person that he supposedly loved. And he came to resent that person that he took actions on behalf and began to blame them for the choices that he made. And they were only his choices because Nahe So didn't want him to get fast money. She got upset every time he brought home
mhm.
large sums of money. He said it because she's like, where did you get that money from? Nothing that you currently do would result in you having that amount of money in your possession unless you're doing something shady. And he would,
Yep.
Yeah.
when he was going to get the loan, he was reflecting on that. Oh, Nahisa would always cry when I brought home money. Um, but she
And
doesn't
she's gonna
know.
cry again this time too. I was just like, dude, you haven't learned your fucking mistake.
Yeah.
You
I
haven't
mean, and
learned.
Exactly.
and if anybody would know what would happen when you get money from loan sharks, it would be her, I'm sure.
Yep.
Especially like with her, father having like a history of, gambling, like a gambling addiction, I'm sure. Why would you not listen to somebody? And I mean, I get where okay, in a weird way, I kind of get where he's coming from because he's like, "Oh, who would lend any money to us, right?" And I get that, and I get being desperate.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you would
Mm-hmm.
have just gotten yourself a fucking job,
Yep.
you
Hmm.
know, just start
Normal,
somewhere,
normal.
and I've known people like this too, and it drives me fucking crazy. So, they say they're looking for a job. But they don't want to work at McDonald's. They don't want to work at the grocery store. They want the highest salary going right out the gate. And I'm
Yep.
Hmm.
just kind of like, okay, but you have no money now. Isn't any money some money better than no money? Like, and I get kind of wanting to hold out for a better job, but if
Mm-hmm.
you are a broke motherfucker now, how is waiting for a job that you don't even know you're going to get, like, how is that going to benefit you? You know what I
How?
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just, like, when I first moved to Virginia, I was going to take a job at fucking Kmart before they closed. Did I want to work at Kmart? No. But was I going to? Yes. Because $8 an hour is better than no bucks an hour. You
Yep.
know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you know, and it would buy me time to find a better job, but at least I would have some kind of income. And that's what I don't understand about some people. And maybe it's just because I've never been in that type of situation, but to me, working at McDonald's is better than like not having any money. Would I want to? No. Would I if I absolutely had to? Yes, I would. Would I
But
enjoy it? Probably not. But
and
it's
I
money.
so but yeah, it's money. Naheso works at a flower shop. She works at a barbecue spot, and she works at a hotel counter on the weekends. Now, Naheso, with her 3 jobs, was able to pay the bills, make sure food was on the table, and I'm pretty sure that their phone bills got paid. And it was
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in a chapter that Minchaw had a gym membership, but now that he's working, he was too busy to go. All the money that was coming into the household was through Naheso, and she
Mhm.
was making sure that the loans got paid and everything, and they had a roof over their head, food to eat, and a clean household to come to. She did all of that with the menial jobs, multiple menial jobs that she did. And she even took on another job because she had to buy Minchall's suits, buy his shoes so that he could have clothes for his interview and eventually for the job that he got. And she still had money saved. She still had enough to plop down $200 and give to Minchall when he had his little dusty handout because he wanted to buy cologne that he went to go buy with his side chick.
Yep.
Mitchell has an office job. It's an office clerk. He's an apprentice. He's not making that much more money. He's not really making much money, but it's a better job than what is considered by status than what Nahe So is doing. Here's the funny thing.
He's
Not
still
sure if
pissed
he's
about
paying
it.
rent. He's still pissed about it. But not only is he pissed about it, if you check the last chapters where he was going to try to get the loan, he only has a couple $100 to his name.
Yeah.
He is not being fiscally responsible in any way with the money that he has coming in. It is not going to Nahe So. Where is it going?
Well, it was mentioned that he was paying off the debt,
That's what he
so
has. That's what he said to the loan sharks. But Nahe So has mentioned that she's paying the money. So
Yeah,
who's
he's only
the
paying the
liar?
interest. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
only paying
Who
the
is the
interest. That's it.
who is the
That's it.
liar?
but I'm wondering if maybe there is more than one debt though.
I
Um
wouldn't be surprised if there is because,
Yeah.
like, okay, I still have like a little headcanon that Minchell had a gambling obsession similar to her father at some point. Um, and that's what kind of caused like her being scared because after he cheated for the first time in like chapter 7, she
Hmm.
was just like, oh, I'm now having anxious that he's doing something really dumb again. And I'm just like, okay, so he's done something really, really considerably stupid in the past. Like,
Yep.
I
considerably
figured
stupid.
I figured that was like him like borrowing money though, you know. I mean, I wouldn't I don't know, like, do you really think that he would be into gambling? Because they haven't really mentioned it. And it's never,
Mhm.
in my opinion, and keep in mind, it's been a minute since I've read some of the older chapters, but I'm kind of inclined to think that I don't really think there's I don't want to say proof, but I don't really see any evidence. Maybe that's the best way to put it. I personally don't see any evidence where he had any kind of gambling addiction, but I
Mhm.
could see where he would try to borrow money, to pay for like housing and, food and, whatever emergency expenses might come up. I mean, I know the biggest thing is everybody is, thinking that the debt is probably from when she like miscarried and probably when, they got their like place, but he doesn't I don't know, to me I really don't get the read that he's like gambling, but I could be very wrong.
The only mention of gambling that we've seen is the covers where it's the casino. And don't get me wrong, that could be a harbinger of the fact that Minchall did try to gamble. It is very possible. It's especially in order to encounter seedy characters, you have to go to seedy places. Um,
Mhm.
to encounter them to get he went to loan sharks. He didn't get loans from a reputable business, so he had to be somewhere seedy to get it. We don't know the means to that end, but I did mention before we saw the first apartment that they moved in together. It is not the apartment that we saw in the scenes where the loan sharks break into the apartment and is breaking everything, and it's not the apartment that they currently had that Minchal has since moved from to move in with Ari that Naruto still has. So I was very confused at first in chapter, what was it, 32, 33, when Nahe So was talking about moving and how she was reflecting on Minchal saying that, we would go eat, like we would go eat meat and go eat, like noodles every time, like when we would move on moving day. It seemed like they had moved more than once, at least in my
Yeah.
opinion, 3 times. So the first time he used the money that he saved to move them into the crappy apartment that they were in together so that she could escape her place. The
Mhm.
second time, I think he borrowed money to move into an apartment that was nicer, that was like
Mhm.
closer to what he dreamed, but he couldn't afford that. And their circumstances got messed up, which ended up, in her wandering the streets in the rain with Gar. medication and then encountering Teja, which we don't know if that was the first time she had ever encountered Teja, but the reason that she even encountered Teja up until this moment that we know of is because of the loan sharks, which was Minchaw's fault. If he never did any of that, she would have never met Teja unless they met before that. Let's start there. That's Minchaw's fault. So I'm thinking that he borrowed money to like make their lives better, but he didn't tell her where he was getting the money from, and then it
Mhm.
came to bite him in the butt. That is
Yeah,
my
Mhm.
that's what I think too. I mean, to me that, I think that theory holds a lot more weight than, him just like gambling, like, I mean, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but to me that sounds, like more logical than him gambling.
Mhm.
Especially considering like, even though he didn't, grow up with Jesus' dad per se, but I feel like, after seeing what Jesus went through, I would think that he probably would not want to repeat that, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
but he
So,
did.
you know,
But he did,
I mean, he did, he
unfortunately.
just didn't gamble, is what I'm
But he did
saying.
gamble. I'm
But
gonna say this. Even if he didn't go to the table to go to the slots or go to the poker table to gamble, he gambled with their future by constantly taking on risky investments that he could not pay back.
that I will concede that, and honestly, I could see that that's maybe how the debt grew. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe because we know that, I will say that the one thing that Kangman Chol and Taehi have in common is that they both want money to come easily to them.
Yeah.
So it
Absolutely.
makes me wonder if maybe he took that money and tried to invest it and it backfired.
I
Yep.
wouldn't be surprised either. There was a stock market crash in like the 2010s, because of some issue that happened in Korea that's very isolated from the West. Mary, my husband, also covered that issue as well. So maybe that's where Mitchell lost a lot of his money. But stock is a very big gamble, and that's why like people are like, if you don't have that much money to gamble with, just get a TFSA or a savings account and invest in dividends. Dividends are always safe. Don't ask me how I know that.
But I mean, but the thing is though, is that Minchol is the type that thinks he's smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, because he
Mm-hmm.
So of
prays to
course,
high heavens.
yeah. So of course he would not deign to try to get the advice of a professional. Because one, I could see where for somebody like him that might be intimidating. And, and two, he probably thinks that he can just do it better on his own, you know, and save the money that he would pay someone to just do it himself. Like I could
Mhm.
easily see him doing that,
Mhm.
and I know that he was doing it with the intention of making things better, but that's what happens, when you try to take shortcuts, it definitely like gets you in the end. So, you know, I mean, I don't feel sorry for him. I mean, let me rephrase that. I feel bad that he doesn't know how to ask for help, but but he kind of brought it on himself. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, I don't know. Like he's just one of those who just thinks he knows more and then gets mad when things don't go his way.
Mhm.
He's almost like a man child, sort of. But, you know, but yeah, I've seen that too. Like I've seen people in real life try to take like shortcuts and, and then they're like, "Oh, what did I do wrong?" It's like, "Well, you tried to do it get rich quick and that's what you did wrong." But
Yep.
that's neither here nor there. Who am I to
Get rich
judge?
quick. But he doesn't have the reach, the range, or the acumen to get rich quick. He should have done what Naheso was doing to save money, and they wouldn't be in they would not even be in the circumstances that they're in. She would have never really, at this point, she would have never met Teha. If
Yeah.
she would have never met, at least from what we know, she would have never met Teha or came across Teha again if he had the same hustle, practical mindset that Naheso had.
Mhm.
He was the main architect of the destruction of their relationship. And I want him to be able to sit with that and suffer through it and accept that he actually destroyed the one relationship that he had with the one person who probably
Really
knew
cared
him
about him.
better, actually cared about him, knew more about him than anyone else, and was willing to work with him to repair what was ruptured. But he never actually went through the mode of saying, I want to fix it. Let me fix it. And he got forgiveness, but
Mhm.
even with the forgiveness, he was very resentful of his circumstances and laid that burden upon others when he should have laid it with himself and found a way to accept it. And there's
Oh,
nothing that
totally.
anyone, he is not a, he, the victim of a circumstance for Mincho is that he lost his parents very young. There was nothing
Yeah.
else. There was nothing else that would have impeded his progress if he so chose to take the path. He was
Mhm.
not a victim of poverty itself. He decided to be, he was a victim of his own
Bad
pride,
decisions.
pride and bad decisions. And I'm gonna need people to sit with the choices that they make and stop blaming everything else around you. Because you can't blame Nahe, so she didn't ask you to do that. You can't
Yep.
blame poverty. You have money saved. You can't blame, the people around you saying,
Capitalism.
do this, do this, do that. Everybody told you to stay your ass in school.
Yep.
Go to
But
college. No, I was like, how's it going to be when you go to college? She said, you go into college. I'm going to be sad because I know you're going to be around girls. How am I going to manage this? But I know you're going to school because you're smart and you're going to be fine. And you're going to be successful. Everybody was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. And you decided to take the worst possible path that nobody asked you to take.
yeah,
And
I
then you got
mean,
mad about
That was a lot of self-sacrifice that in the end it didn't build to anything. Like, and I said to myself, like, if you thought about it for like 2 seconds, you could have still made it work because like there's student loan, there's things that there are things that you kind of have to do. What is it called? As a student in Korea. So he could have made it work. Like there was things
it.
that he could have done. There's things
He
that
was still a
could have
ward of
been.
the state for a little bit because he's an orphan. Like there was
Yeah.
stuff, he did. He was a victim of his own hubris. Okay, I
Mhm.
very
was
much
looking for
so.
that damn word. It was a victim of his own hubris. Okay, and
Mhm.
he decided to take the hardest route and then never reverse course because he had somebody who was down for him and she would do anything to see them happy. And he decided that instead of happiness, he was going to continue down that idiotic road. And it got him exactly where he is right now. And even as the upswing happens, he cannot be
Mhm.
happy because he was never going to be happy because he was never happy with his childhood. And so he's swinging on everybody with his sorrows rather than letting it sit and sink in with himself that he
Yeah.
is the key to his own unhappiness. And that is something everybody needs to sit with. They can sit and blame and swing and sing sad spirituals about his hard life, but he makes his life hard. Nobody's
Yeah,
making
he
his life
really does.
harder than he does.
Yeah, he
Nobody.
really, really does. I agree with that 150 million%. But that's the thing though. Like, if he just would have asked, if he would have just put away his ego for 5 minutes and just had like a heart to Jesus talk with his teacher, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this could have been solved. You know,
Yeah,
he
hey,
he
so.
he and Nahesu could have, they may not have been rich, but they could have had like a comfortable life. And that's what I've always said that I want. I just want to be comfortable. I don't need, would I like to be Oprah rich? Fuck yeah.
Who
You know,
wouldn't?
but at the same time, I know that is not achievable for me. So I am going to lower my expectations and I just want to be comfortable. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But,
Mhm.
you know, I did work for it. So did my husband. Like
Mhm.
like 10 years ago, we were living like paycheck to paycheck. We were renting. We were living in Florida. It was, not the best of situations, but like now we actually own a house. We're not as I don't want to say rich, but we're better off than what we were 10 years ago, but it took a
Mhm.
lot of work to get there.
It takes
Like
equity, sweat equity to get it, you
yeah,
know?
it really does. Like I mean, and I'm not and I will say that I did have to have my parents help us here and there, and I don't like admitting it, but I'm not going to say that I did it all on my own, but I
Mhm.
did have help, but I feel like, there's nothing wrong with getting help as long as you're not like always asking for help. You know what I'm saying?
There's
Like,
nothing wrong with using your community and leveraging your
yeah,
community to get move
exactly.
forward and move on. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I said, we had to work very hard to get where we're at. Like there was at one point where he lost his job. We had just bought a house. We had been in the house for like maybe 6 months and he lost his job. So he was doing Uber and I found myself a second job and he would do Uber and then apply. And it wasn't the most ideal of situations, but we did what we had to do and we got through it. He got a crappy job that he hated, that it paid well. He wanted to quit, but he didn't because why? He's an adult and we had bills to pay. He did end up getting a better job. It took him a little bit, but that's how it is sometimes. Like,
Hmm.
I just feel like a lot of people expect things to just be handed to them. Like, you
Nope.
know, we had a roommate that like thought she was gonna get like 15 bucks an hour straight out the gate. And I'm like, no, you dear sweet summer child, that is not how this works. Like you don't just walk in somewhere and just say, oh, I'm worth $15. You gotta, unless you got skills, which she did not have a very good resume, you know, um, and that was mainly because she did not work. But it's like you gotta work. You gotta put the time in. You have to put in the effort. Nothing is gonna come to you. And I think, that was a hard thing that Minchell should have learned but didn't.
He didn't
All
learn
of
it,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, the lessons are going to keep coming because until you learn the lesson, life is going to keep beating your ass, and that
oh
is where he's
definitely.
at. He could actually he could actually have a good life with art if he so chose. He
Mhm.
doesn't. His version of love is not supportive, constructive, or sustainable, unfortunately, for any of the people that he's been involved with. But if he so chose to settle for Ari, he could still have a good life. But he doesn't want a good life. He wants to be miserable, and he wants to be miserable with Nahe. So that is not a version of love that is sustainable either, because Nahe So was so miserable that she stopped thinking of herself as even human, worthy, or like worthy of love, or even a noticeable piece of this earth. And I was like, you want her to be human. You want her to stop acting like a wooden doll, but you talk to her like an object.
Yeah. And that's the
Make it
thing
make sense.
though, because that kind of like inner dialogue is so toxic, like, and I think, me and you have had this conversation before, like I went through a period of time where I was telling myself some really, really bad things,
Mm-hmm.
and like one of the things that my best friend said, she was like, would you ever, the things that you are telling yourself, would you ever say that to another human being? I was like, no. She's a, and then she said, well, why are you saying it to yourself? You
Yeah.
know, and that was like really big. And I mean, also at the time I started going through therapy, which really helped out a lot, because I didn't realize how much baggage I was actually carrying, but that's another thing that that I wonder about Minchal, because he has a very, very unhealthy and very toxic outlook on life. You know, like
Yep.
what really, really gets to me is when he talks about how he wants to ruin Nahesu. And like to me, that says a lot about his like mindset and how like unhealthy like he is mentally. Like I really feel like if King Minchol was an actual person, you know, one, I would hit him in the dick, but then I would tell him, "Bro, you need some counseling because your behavior is not normal. Your inner dialogue is not normal. The way you treat people is not normal. The way you look at love is definitely not normal." You know, if you really love someone, you would never wish for them to suffer, or you would never wish for them to be brought low like you are. You know, like,
Hmm.
and I know this is probably like a conversation for another episode.
Yeah.
But I just really feel like he's got a lot of problems, and he's the type that would probably need to be on some type of medication, but that's just me.
I'll keep it 1,000 with you. I think every last main character in the story, could benefit from seeing the lady and having a little bit of therapy. Naheso has psychological damage from
Yeah,
a
PST,
history of
PSTD, or PTSD.
PTSD
That's what I'm
from
trying to say.
ongoing verbal and domestic abuse.
Yep.
Um, Minchal has unresolved issues that have to do with his childhood, his dissatisfaction with his own, like discontent with his own life, and some very, very self-destructive traits that he needs to deal with. Then we got Teja, who is a criminal vigilante who also has a toxic home life environment. He's under a tense amount of pressure, and he has probably all these unresolved issues from his abusive past as a child on up into damn near adolescence into his adulthood that he's actually translated into self-harm. So all of them could benefit from going to see the lady and learning
Yeah.
how. And Tehi needs to go because he's over there treating women like objects based off of most likely his childhood trauma from the fact that his father brought in a left child. Well, Willis T was the actually only child that was supposed to inherit everything. Everybody needs to go to therapy and tears on a withered flower. And I
Yes.
think that should be our next episode that we have. Let's talk about therapy and everybody's needs and why. And
Yeah.
that's all right. After that, I gotta get off my soapbox. I'm getting off my soapbox.
Nah, you good. Trust me, I feel you. Well, we are coming up on 2 hours. So we probably should wrap this up. So before we do, um, what is everybody's final thoughts? And Study Bunny, you have been like super quiet, so I'm gonna let you go first.
Go ahead, baby.
We're fucked. That's that's all I could like. I'm literally thinking about it, and I'm just like, shit. I feel like we're because for the last like what few weeks, Gay has been trying to like set up everything. So by the time we go into the whole chaos of this, everyone would have had their little bits and bobs and a little bit of smut here, a little bit of cute stuff here, even the Minchel fans got their long awaited Minchel flashback chapters so they could finally shut up. But the thing is that during this entire time, everyone was complaining. Everyone was complaining. Everyone's complaining. I can imagine this woman is just saying, you know what? Since everybody wants plot, no one was specific about what type of plot they wanted. We all just said we wanted plot. We didn't specify our wish. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, malicious compliance is probably going to be the name of the game here. Because when Lee J said, man, I have a real bad feeling about this, that's when I knew we were in the shit. Because if Lee J says, yeah, this is bad, this is really, really bad, then this is bad. This is bad. And I don't know how many weeks of plot heavy chapters we can actually tolerate because we only had chapter 71. And look what this caused us. We had what? All the theorists spiral. Everyone's predicting that she's probably going to go back to the man. People are fighting up in the comments saying, no, that's not going to happen. Then on Twitter, people are crying because it's like, just let them be happy. We say we want plot. We say we don't want it to be bored. But then we are the same people who cannot physically, mentally handle it because we get so emotionally quick that when the plot comes, we're panicking. And I'm just like, damn, we're gonna really regret our words. And there's nothing we can do because she probably is just like, fine, I'm gonna just give the plot. We are gonna hit everything bang for bang for bang. I'm gonna go on hiatus and I'm gonna go on vacation. Go
Yeah,
for
she
Gaming for
really needs
Korean
it.
Global Webtoon Awards, everybody. I put a friggin' tutorial. Do your job and let us pray and get some drinks. That's all I can say as the study bunny.
In Gainim, we trust.
God
And
bless
what
the
about
great gay.
and what about you, Digital Girl? Any final thoughts?
I never had any regrets. I never will. I never rush art. I've already um, decided to take in what is being given. And if it tears me apart, if I die, I die. At this point,
Mhm.
I'm gonna just ride this ride till I'm either dragged through the streets or driven to Valhalla. Okay, because I was in for the penny and I'm in for the pound. I've decided to lock in, and it's one of the best stories that I've actually gotten to read of modern art, not fantasy, but modern romance, dark. I decided I was gonna get on. I wasn't like, oh my god, it's too slow. Oh my god, it's too fast. Oh my god, oh my god. I'm not the Princess and the Pea. This is a story that I get. I'm gonna get what I get, and I might get upset, but I ain't gonna blame the author because I decided to lock in. I'm gonna start there, and I'm gonna tell you right now, buddy. Every Friday is wind down Friday for me because sometimes I do need to unwind my week because I get wound up at like 10 a.m. when Neighbor drops the episode. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I need to
Mm-hmm.
relax for late release when I get home. So I always have a bottle on chill ready for Fridays. So I'm ready to ride out and I watch everybody panic. I was like, y'all gonna have to either decide to take some Xanax, get a glass of red wine if you're into it, a
At
cup of
school when
chamomile,
this
but y'all
chapter
gonna have to
dropped. I was at
every time the chapter
school.
drops,
I was like,
and
what?
don't
Oh God.
I have conference calls, and when that chapter drops, I still find a moment to step away from my desk, go somewhere quiet, so I can internally scream, then go back to my desk, hyperventilate, and do my job. And the life is life, and their life is happening, and I'm excited to see it. And I always dedicate one part of my week to making sure that I catch up on everything and sometimes reread because I always want to know, am I crazy or am I being validated by what I see? But yeah, I'm gonna lock
Mhm.
in. Friday's on its way. We got one more night, sundown and sun up. And then we got ourselves another episode of this crazy ass story that I particularly like. You can love it or hate it, but I love it, and that's fine for now. That's enough for me.
Well, if I were to share any final thoughts, I'm just happy to be here, to be honest. Like, I have really enjoyed, this community and
Yeah,
being
me
able
too.
to, meet people and we can all geek out together. Like, that is one of my most favorite things about Tears on a Withered Flower is how so many people came together because of one little comic. And honestly, like, I love the story. I love the art. There's a lot of things that I really like about this manhwa. And as much as anxiety as I have going into the roller coaster drop that we are about to experience any chapter now, I'm just glad to be here. So I'm gonna just sit here with my Diet Dr. Pepper and I'm gonna read, and then when I hear my phone go off because Discord is imploding, I'm going to check to make sure everybody's copacetic because that's what Auntie does. Um,
Mhm.
I'm gonna try to see what I can see while I'm working, even though I should not be doing that, but don't tell nobody. Um, you know, and I'ma just be here.
Yep.
I'm just along for the ride and for the friends that I meet along the way. So, yeah, it's gonna be a chapter. I
You
really
guys should
think
you guys
we're
should have
gonna
seen
implode.
Santana's reaction, man. So what happened with Symphony? Actually, wait. I'll wait until the recording is over.
Okay.
Mhm.
Fair enough.
Everybody's reaction to the chapter 71. They were in disbelief. That's all I can say. It was disbelief
Mhm.
all around. Nobody could either believe what was happening because so much actually happened that chapter, and we're just like, that was emotional that was whiplash. That was a lot of whiplash. It went from 0 to 100 real quick, and I was like, that's whiplash. I was not okay for like a whole week. Oh my god.
Believe it.
And the theories and deep discussion chats were alive for like 4 days. I was like, I was modding. I was just like, oh my god. It's a lot of work.
Well, I will say thank you for your service.
No problem.
I mean, I
Everything
do try to
spirals.
like read the chats, but sometimes I just, I can't keep up because
Oh my
I
god.
feel like I'm always late to the party, but but anyways, well, that about wraps it up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, thank you, ladies, for joining. It has
Mhm.
always been a pleasure. It's
Absolutely.
always fun for us to get together and talk. So, thank you for joining me.
Mhm.
And for everyone else, thank you for listening. Please join our Discord if you would like to geek out with the rest of us. We actually just hit 1,000 members about what, 2 weeks ago now? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
So yeah, just hit that like and subscribe and join our Discord if you want to join us. So that's it for now. So good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.